What if I tell you that going backwards or taking a step back can actually propel you forward quicker than if you were to continue pushing forward in spite of? Hi, welcome to Epiphany Me TV. I'm Dr. Jazz, or sometimes Epiphany Me Jazz. But welcome to my channel, Epiphany Me TV. Here I like to discuss topics around personal growth and development, relationships, overall healing, and any other topics that I'm moved by. If you like what you hear, go ahead and subscribe, share, comment. Let me know your best part of the video or some things that you would like me to discuss. Drop them down in the comments below. So in keeping the momentum going, I want to talk about the art of backpedaling. Some of you might be listening and saying to yourself, how is there an art to backpedaling? Like, how is it cute, crafty, or strategic, or whatever word you want to plug in? How is that, an art to it? Like, if I have to go backwards, how is that cute, crafty, or strategic? However, it is. And I want to share this story with you so that way you can really understand where I'm coming from. I'm an assistant professor. I have a PhD in educational psychology, and I completed my degree in December of 2022. However, of course, before that, there was a whole journey that I had to take up until December of 2022. So I want to go back to fall of 2018. So at that point, I had been in my program for about a year and a half. I began my program fall of 2017, but fall of 2018, I made the pivotal decision to take a step back, where I wanted to take a break to work on my mental health and really, get some things in order. So of course, getting into a PhD program, is a feat in itself. PhD programs can be highly selective, competitive. They only let in a small cohort because they want to make sure that they're able to focus on those small groups of students. There's research that you have to do, dissertation. It's a very rigorous program, and so they want to make sure that they're giving you the time that you deserve. So they only allow a small number of students. So of course, getting into a PhD program, it's a proud moment. It's a difficult feat. Not too many people in the population, can say that they have a PhD. So taking all of that into account and bearing all of that on the weight of your shoulders, think if you had to tell yourself, what if I did that and it may not be for me? Those are all of the things that I was battling with. So again, fall 2018, fast forward to fall 2018, I had been dealing with a lot of mental health challenges. Like, I just really needed to deal with unresolved trauma, conflict, things that I really needed to heal within. And I couldn't do that while being in a rigorous PhD program, trying to complete papers, holding a grant assistantship, being in this organization, that organization. So I knew I would have needed to take a step back. And now this was a hard decision for me to make, because up until that point, even though I had only been in the program for a year and a half, a year and like a semester, I had already made a lot of segue within the program. So I was getting involved in organizations, co-authoring papers, and I was also working on spearheading a student organization. So at the time, we didn't have a student organization for our PhD program specifically. So I was spearheading the process of sitting before the student council board, to try to get our organization implemented. So all of those things were things that I were getting implemented, getting started. I was just finding my footing, meeting people, trying to build connections, all to say, you know what? I need to take a step back. After much prayer and sitting and spending time with God, I told God, you know what? I need to take time to focus on my mental health. So I'm going to take a step back and I'm giving it up to you. I'm giving this program to you. So if it's meant for me to come back to this program, I know that you will present the opportunity again. I decided that for spring 2019, I would just step back and not withdraw. After talking to an advisor, which I'm glad I did, and I'm glad this advisor gave this specific advice. He said, don't withdraw, just take a step back, take some time away, because if you withdraw, You have to do the entire application process over again. You have to interview. You have to go through the full process over again. So just take a step back. So taking his advice, I just used that spring 2019 semester to go to therapy, get my mental health together, just work on overall healing and, just things that I needed to do to get my mind right. Because if you don't know, from a psychological perspective, when you're stressed, you have anxiety, depression, you're not going to be able to make adequate, or effective decisions. You're not going to be able to show up in the world as the way you would like to because of those mental health challenges. So I wanted to make sure I gave myself that time to take care of me. So during that spring 2019 semester, while I was backpedaling, taking a step back, I still was making sure that I was making decisions that would still propel me forward or that were in alignment with where it is I wanted to go. So at that time, I had applied for an academic advisor position. So I got that position for that spring semester. I didn't stay on that job long, but however, it taught me a lot of things that I could apply to the field of educational psychology. Educational psychology is about the teaching and learning aspect, learner differences, and evaluating those processes. And so being an academic advisor gave me the opportunity to have those hands-on experience. So during that spring semester, the opportunity did present itself again. Another thing I want to mention, just to really solidify that it wasn't an easy decision, but it was a necessary decision, is that when I took this step back, I initially began the program in fall of 2017, like I said earlier, with the intention or having the anticipation of graduating 2021, 4 years. However, taking that semester off, my advisor, forewarned me that, hey, just know this is going to add another year on because of the way courses, availability, the way it fell. That would, automatically add a year on. So knowing, okay, I take just the semester off, it's going to add a year on. I'm looking at 2022 now versus 2021. However, I want to point out that although that one semester off added a year, that 1 year alone or that one semester alone gave me the time I needed to get rejuvenated, refreshed, and to rebuild up that momentum to come back stronger and better than ever. And this is not to slight anyone else that was in the program or their overall process, because we all had our own journeys and own life experiences and things that we had to deal with while we were in pursuit of a PhD. However, taking that semester off, it really helped me propel forward faster and quicker, even than some people who didn't take a break at all. And again, like I said, not to slight anyone, but it's just to show, like, for me and my own personal experience and to give you insight as well, that sometimes if you have to take a step back or backpedal or go backwards, as we like to say, not to really look at it in that aspect. Look at it as a way of you taking a step back to refresh your mind and rework some things that you wouldn't have gotten to do versus if you had kept pushing forward, even when you felt in your mind and in your heart that it wasn't the right thing to do. And if I hadn't have taken that time off, I wouldn't have allowed myself the opportunity to really have that reflective time, to get rejuvenated, to really rebuild my momentum back up. Because again, I was in the space and mind frame of where I needed to step back and take care of my mental health. And I want to frame it in the way of, think about if you go to the gym. I'm trying to get back into my gym, girl days. But if you go to the gym and you've walked the treadmill or any type of cardio, you might have noticed someone beside you walking on the treadmill backwards. So doing the treadmill backwards as opposed to forward. Okay, and why do people do that? Okay, so if you continue to only walk forward, you're only going to be working out the front part of your legs, and so the front part of your hamstrings. However, you have to think about the backs, the back of your legs. So that is why you see that person walking backwards, so that way they can work out muscles that they wouldn't have got to work out if they had have kept moving forward. So I think about it in that aspect. So when you think about the art of backpedaling, think about it how you would refer to exercise. Like sometimes you have to do backward movement to get the exercise to certain muscles that you wouldn't get if you were to keep moving forward. And again, I know all of these things. I know that these can be things that are easier said than done, but there is an art to backpedaling. So if you've had to move back home, start over in your career, or whatever, fill in the blank, even though you knew in your heart and mind it was the right thing to do, it doesn't always feel like the easiest thing to do. There's an art to that. And just know that even though you took that step back, you're going to propel forward faster than if you had kept going against the grain.